Hello, welcome back. Doing a couple of videos tonight while we're in the mood and got my notes on a few things. And wanted to cover the subject of technician and shop pay scale, I guess, is just general coverage. Specifically, I guess, how techs get paid and how things are billed. And it comes down to most shops and most techs are either straight time, hourly, or they are flat rate. I'll explain a lot more about what flat rate is, but most jobs are straight time or hourly jobs. You get paid by the hour and you do a job, and most people know how those work. A lot of shops have both. A lot of the big corporations make sure they have both types of techs because there's times for both. Flat rate techs work according to their regular hours too, same as any of them, but the way they get paid is based on their billed hours. So if you go into a shop and you pay for an hour's worth of work, let's say $1.29 an hour, whatever it is, they get pay based on that. So let's say most techs also, let's put it as, most techs get paid somewhere between minimum wage and $30, $40 an hour. The range there may seem like a big range. The hourly shops are going to be more on the lower end of that. Most techs that make up in the 30, 40 range are going to be flat rate techs as well, because they're basing that on billable hours, the hours that go out the door billable, or what's sold, basically. So for a flat rate tech, it's to their advantage to learn the skills, learn the job, learn some of the shortcuts, but also learn to do the job properly the first time, as well as be efficient and quick about it. Because if they're there for an 8-hour day, they could potentially get paid for 16 hours, but they could potentially also have a day that only pays them 4 hours. Let me tell you what happens there. Let's use my day-to-day as an example, I guess. Had a job that we sold as a very large job that I had a few shortcuts I was able to do. We had a few things that went very well, made some good time on. So let's say I had one ticket today that had 6 hours to remove 2 windows and a door, let's say. I'm just throwing some hypotheticals out there. And let's say I'm able to do those in 3. Well, I'm still going to get paid for the 6 hours to pull those doors and windows. That's the advantage. But if I'd gotten into a bind or had an issue or something didn't work right and it took me 8 hours, I still only get paid for those 6 hours of work. In an hourly shop, you're going to get paid straight. The tech would get paid an 8-hour day for an 8 hours with work. The disadvantage is you're not going to get any better than that. You work a 40-hour week, you get paid for a 40-hour week. A flat rate tech has an opportunity to do better. Get good at the job, learn the skills, have all the right tools, and we do. We buy our own tools. We're not like a doctor's office where the doctor's office supplies all our tools for them. We buy our own tools. We do our own education. We do all the continuing education. We deal with tech support on the phone and continue to learn the industry and the skill. And as the RV industry changes, the RVs change. We have to keep up on the moderns, the new, the difference, the changes, the issues that were up with the last few years, and how they've been changed and how they've been fixed, and all the tools that go with it. And there can be a lot of money in tools. A flat rate tech has an opportunity of making as much time as they can bill. So if we have a job that is, let's say, a 40-hour job for a roof, and I can do it in 20 hours, that means in half of my week I can turn my full week's pay. At the same time, though, and use an example, there's one in our shop right now that had this happen. Ran into some issues with rust, corrosion, some other things that just couldn't be helped. Could not have been found until we got into it, and didn't go back to ask the customer just because it was a quote. Is what it was. The tech was okay with the quote. It just happens. Probably a 40-hour roof job that's going to be more like 60 hours. So he's going to have 20 hours worth of work in that job that he's going to eat it. Unfortunately, it happens. That's why a lot of the flat rate techs are higher rate, because we take that risk along with the company. If for any tech out there or any customer aware, if a tech wants to make good money, get good at your job, and flat rate can be good for you. But get good. You got to be good at the job to make ends meet at flat rate. The job itself, the way it's based, is off the flat rate book, and Spader is one of the big ones. There's a couple others out there, and what the manual shows is it should take X amount of hours to do X job. For instance, water pump R&R, remove and replace. That is taking one out, putting the new one back in. R&I would be remove and install. I'm taking this door out so I can fix the seal, and I'm putting the door back in. So the water pump pays 0.9. If I can do it in 0.6, I get paid for 0.9. I've just saved 0.3. That'll add up. If it took longer, for instance, I had to empty a complete compartment of all the customers' clutter and stuff and junk and chairs and everything else, which took half an hour, and get access to that panel and then do the job. And then I had to put everything back. Some shops will bill that in. You're going to pay for that. A lot of shops don't. Unfortunately, that's the downside of being a tech in the RV industry. We are dealing with those things. If the flat rate system is set up for optimum conditions. It doesn't take into account most of the time things like rust, corrosion, clutter, space, malfunctions, issues, stuff like that. And if you're working in a shop that's flat rate, that's something to take into account, is how capable are they, and the advisors are, of telling the customer, this has got a lot of corrosion, this is what the quote's going to take. Or is it a pure flat rate shop where they just look at that flat rate book and that's it, period? So that can be something to take into account. And for a customer, the reason I bring that up, if you're looking at shops, a flat rate shop is great because you're going to have good quality, because they have to stand behind it. A tech doesn't want to do that job again because they're not going to get paid to do it the second time. At the same time, they usually have good experience. They usually are good at their job, and have been doing it a while. They have the experience to go with it. That's how they can earn a living, flat rate. A lot of shops that do hourly, not to say they aren't good, but you're going to find techs that may not have the capability of doing the higher. Doesn't mean they're not good. It may just mean that they're slower, and they do the quality job a different way. So, not a good or bad on either one. I've worked hourly, I've worked flat rate. I would say that either way, it's not a bad thing. The calculation of time in flat rate doesn't take into account things like prepping for the work, parts running, movement of the unit itself, tools and parts that are needed. In the automotive industry, flat rate is based on optimum conditions. A tech walks up and says, here's the car, there's all the tools needed to do the job, here's the new engine, you're going to pull this engine, put that one in, that's how long it takes. It doesn't take into account the customer's got a cup holder full of coins, the car seats in the back seat, and custom lighting under the hood. It doesn't take into things that the customer changes. Or regional things, like up north we deal with a lot of salt and rust, corrosion, stuff like that, or just general clutter. And that's one thing in the RV industry that can hurt, is those things are not taken into account with a flat rate shop. And so in a flat rate shop, the techs can be hurting, or you can end up with extra charges or coming back to things, or not getting the quality work you could because they're rushing through it because now they have other stuff to deal with. In an hourly shop, though, you could purely be being charged, but it took 4 hours to do this, not realizing that hour that was moving your stuff in and out of the compartment. So, something to think of mind. When we are doing a job and billing a certain amount of hours, a flat rate tech is basing their complete paycheck on how many hours did I bill. If it took, the bad side of the business and the bad side of the RV industry is, if it took half an hour for that unit to get to the bay and get pulled in, if you're wanting same day service and you pull up and it's not till 9:30 until you get checked in, and that tech's been waiting, tech's already started off with a loss, then it takes that long to get the unit pulled in, then they got to work on it, then they go chase down parts. These are the things that hurt in shops, and it's something to be aware of. A better system in shops is set up that the shop foreman dispatches and does more of a air traffic control type thing. Coaches are dropped off prior to. They're laid out and set up and put in line of this is what's going to come next. And as the techs are working through the process of, I'm working on this one, another one's already set up to go. So something to keep in mind of how the system's set up, and something as simple as I need my coach the same day, or I have a bay full of stuff, or I'm going to stand here and wait for it, can really slow down the job and can affect the quality in the long run. So there are advantages to both hourly and flat rate. And I wanted to cover a little bit of an overall how that works and functions, and that it's set for optimum conditions. So there are goods and bads to it. Working as a flat rate tech, you really, in order to make ends meet, you really have to have your skills up and get to that point. The job typically doesn't include things like cleanup and extra testing and confirmation, and chasing parts, or going to get an extra tool or things like that. There's a little thing there to delay. So if you bring your coach in for a job that takes an hour, it might take 4 or 5 hours to do that job when it really comes down to it. Doesn't mean the tech got paid for that time. It doesn't mean the tech's making that $129 an hour you're paying. There's a lot of other overhead and stuff that's going into that. And so be considerate about, I'm going to be there at 9 o'clock to drop my coach off so it can get worked on. And it's a 4-hour job, so I can be out here at 1 o'clock, right? It's not how it works. And that's really not fair to the techs. So something to keep in mind. Want to give everybody an idea of how the flat rate and the labor system in shops work, between hourly and flat rate. Probably a little confusing to people who haven't worked in shops or aren't familiar with it. Feel free to ask. Drop us a message or post or something. Let us know if you have any questions about it or you want some more elaboration. I don't know that this is even going to apply or anybody even cares, but I wanted to get it out there and kind of give everybody an idea from a tech standpoint, from a shop standpoint. I didn't even scratch the surface on this really when it comes down to it. There's a lot more to it when it really comes down to it. When you start looking at, tech pay labor rate compared to billable time, compared to lost time in a shop, and going on to effective labor rates and stuff like that, you'd be surprised how the numbers flow out, where the management and operations side comes from that. That there are many points in there that can be very unfair to the low men on the totem pole, the techs working on your unit. And something as simple as demanding it same day, wanting extra stuff, having units that's cluttered can really affect their paycheck that most people don't realize. And that's one reason I want to kind of cover how the flat rate and the tech stuff works. So again, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Post any questions you may have, and hopefully we can answer anything you may have come up and cover some stuff that people want to see. Have a good one.